Breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Over time, those toxins lead to cancer. Protect yourself with MagnaGrip, the easiest, most reliable exhaust removal system that features a true 100% seal to eliminate diesel exhaust fumes. To get free grant assistance, visit magnagrip.com.
And they were just honed in on they were bound and determined to open this door with the ads. And after about the sixth time it had failed, I'm like, guys, we got to get this door open. This isn't working. This is literally the definition of insanity. What else have you learned? And they're like, oh, we can go to the forks. It was like a light bulb went off, even though it was dark in there. And they recognized right away, oh, they turned it around. They got the forks buried in there, and they forced the door. And it's like you said, Sam, you got to have that plan B. And you need to know what plan B is coming off fire apparatus. You can't make it up on the fly. It's when you get to plan C and D is where you're kind of making it up on the fly. Hello and welcome to this month's Talking Tactics for Fire Engineering. I'm Dave Polikoff and I'm with my hosts RJ and Sam V. And we want to talk a little bit about training. We've been hitting some good tactic stuff with truck company stuff. We got a really good show coming up maybe next month. We'll get into some engine kind of stuff. But I want to talk a little bit about training and whether it's formalized training where we actually go somewhere to take a training class like FDIC or in-station training. We had the unique opportunity to do a training event over the weekend, the three of us, and it was for a really good cause. So I'm not going to ramble on, but I'm going to kick it right to you, RJ. So let's go ahead and let's just talk about what we did over the weekend and go from there.
Cool. Thanks, Dave. And glad to be back again with everybody. This weekend was pretty cool. A bunch of us from Capital got to travel to Butler County, Pennsylvania, where we were able to be a part of the first Jimmy Ellis Memorial Training Weekend, which was hosted by Butler County Fire Chiefs Association. Now, Butler County Fire Chiefs Association put together an annual training that they do every year in Butler County, PA. A bunch of different programs and that kind of stuff spread out over the county. This year, or I would say last year and coming into this year, they decided to change the concept of it, and they wanted to dedicate the training itself to Jimmy Ellis, who was a Pittsburgh firefighter, as well as a member of one of the departments there in Butler County. So they brought in a lot of great instructors from all over the country to put on different programs. We were fortunate enough to do 4 different programs, 2 of them lectures, your class and Sam's class, Command Under Fire and Master in the Fireground as the new chief, as well as 2 hands-on training classes. One of our fairly newer programs, Halligan Honing, aka All Halligans and Dynamic, not Dynamic, I'm sorry, Down and Dirty Urban Force Entry. So it was pretty cool because after you guys' class, we got to get you guys and had the whole Capital crew out on the training ground, and we were doing hands-on training, which was pretty cool. But the biggest thing, it was cool to be able to be there to honor Jimmy Ellis. And, us guys not being, I guess, Pennsylvanians, I guess they call themselves. But it was
whatever.
It was different, not being from Pennsylvania, not being a guy who had ever had the honor and the opportunity to learn from Jimmy Ellis or meet him. So it was kind of different. However, I think the honorable thing, aside from being there and being asked to deliver instruction for the conference, was to have 2 of his sons in our classes. And I think that was a really, really cool thing to be able to pass it on to him. So, those guys, they did a really, really good job putting on a really, really good program to honor one of their guys. And they've already started talking about plans for next year. So it's pretty cool. And then, like I said, they brought in a lot of really, really good instructors from all over the country. So I know that program is going to continue to be something that's an honorable program for years to come.
and it was, like you said, it was an honor to be asked to come out there. And that's probably the furthest in Pennsylvania I've ever traveled. We were north of Pittsburgh, and we were welcomed. It's just like the Southern hospitality that when we go down south to teach, just the welcoming, the guys were really cool. One of the footnotes that I do want to talk about is that we actually got to have Sam come back out and teach with us. He's been playing Mr. Dad for quite a while, and he got to break free and come out and teach with us. So it was nice getting the gang back together and doing the teaching. So and before we go in any further than that, Sam, we'll talk a little bit about your class, Sam, that you teach, and I think it's a phenomenal class when we're talking about communications for the new officer, for the new chief officer. So just kind of round it out. If somebody were to step into your class, what are they going to learn, and what are the takeaways that you want people to take away from that particular class, and what inspired you to write that program to actually deliver it?
Well, I got thrown into a bump up position as a chief, as a battalion chief, and I started the week before, like, everything went, all hands on deck with COVID. So I never got to run a COVID call in the front seat of a pumper, at least knowing, hey, yeah, this is COVID. We're doing the PPE and all that stuff. I went right into the office in the 2nd Battalion. So, I mean, there were some things unique to that I think I could probably write a whole different program on, like how to deliver quality training and develop your personnel remotely. Because, that's all we had, right? I probably could do a program on that. But what this program did was basically the things that helped me become what I think is a good battalion chief are in that program. And certainly being a good command officer, being concise on the radio, having a clean cockpit, getting good position, working on a lot of it was literally building the expectations out. Hey, listen, you can get all this stuff done and have a really clean radio and all that stuff, but you've got to add that stuff into your training regimen. You can't just expect it. Like, I can give you an expectation sheet, but unless you're conditioning yourself to do some of the things I'm asking you to do, it's going to take you a little while to pick it up. And you can save all the frustration by just, hey, listen, add comms in your company drills, add comms in your battalion drills, use your portable radios, use the training talk groups, incorporate communications if you can. If you're doing a multi-unit drill, excellent time to get them involved. All that stuff's in there. And all of that stuff it's stuff that I've used to develop my battalion and to, that's how I battalion chief, I guess.
So, Sam, would you mind telling people some of the things that you have found to be important things that students take away from it? Like, afterwards, when you have conversations with people, like, what are some of the key things that they actually feedback-wise give you?
Well, I think they always feel empowered to do things. They also not just the things that we're either drilling on or something that I expect or whatever. I empower them to lead their battalion or to lead their shift. I'm sorry, I lead their battalion, lead their shift, lead their personnel, develop the personnel. There's a lot of expectations in my battalion that I don't have written down because it's not that it goes against anything, but it's unconventional stuff that is better done than, it's not a policy. It's not my initial expectations, but it's, hey, this is, our battalion, our shift, when we run this kind of call, this is what I expect, that kind of thing. But yeah, so I and it's a good gauge, when you end a conversation with a, I don't like to say subordinate, but with somebody you're mentoring up through, whether it's one of your junior firefighters in your battalion or one of your lieutenants or captains, when they walk out, you can always see the spring in their step if you've really done the right thing to empower them. Like, you want them leaving your office or leaving the conversation wanting to hit the ground running. And the way to do that is to be positive and to listen to them. You're not just giving them one way direction. This is, they know I'm a human being and I'm not perfect. And the way that the battalion becomes great is if the things I miss they catch and they let me know, and we recover from it. So that overarching, hey, I'm empowering you to develop yourself, to lead your shift, to lead each other, that kind of thing.
It's important. One of the things when you said empowering, and this is a conversation that we always have, is just because you're the chief doesn't mean you have to control everything, but allowing your captains and lieutenants to kind of take the lead on some things, and even allowing the line officers, lieutenants and captains, to let some of the firefighters lead some stuff, kind of sets them up for success in the future. But it also lets them feel like, hey, my captain really trusts me to do the right thing, and you end up with, I think, a good solid relationship in your battalion, a relationship with your officers, and a good cohesive shift. So that's huge. And I know we talk about that all the time. I want to pivot a little bit back to you, RJ, because one of the classes that we've been running, and people have heard about it before, the All Halligan's class or Halligan honing. I find it really interesting because you never really thought about, when we're going to force a door, if we're going to be doing conventional forcible entry, we always talk about, an 8-pound axe, flathead axe, and a Halligan bar. Maybe we have a set of heavy irons with a sledge and a Halligan bar. But to be able to go out there and say, hey, all you have is a Halligan bar or two, and we're going to do the forcing that we would normally do with a set of irons, but only with Halligans. Talk about some of the things that you throw out there, that how utilizing just a metal wedge, a couple of Halligan bars, how we can get through most doors without having a good striking tool like an 8-pound axe, and some of the techniques and some of the tricks that you've learned along the way, because I think it's pretty valuable for people to understand that you might not always have access to an axe, but you definitely have access to your bar. Yeah,
cool. I like talking about that. Obviously, we do a lot of forcible entry work. One of our bigger programs, the Down and Dirty Urban Forcible Entry class. But this program was designed for, it was actually designed out of our Urban Forcible Entry class, where we talk about people who are assigned to special services and being able to force a Halligan, or be able to force a door with a Halligan, working in conjunction with another Halligan. And then so that was pretty much like the birth of the All Halligan honing class. And then what we decided to do was, the American Fire Service has so many different Halligan bars that exist now. It's not like you just have the standard one or two Halligans. And it's kind of hard when you're traveling and teaching. Everybody has something different. So what we decided to do was we decided to get our hands on as many Halligan bars as we can find in the fire service, and get them into our programs and be able to get them in students' hands. We go as far as to get every Halligan that we could find, to include what people would call the bad Halligans, which are your 3-piece Halligans. We make them play with every Halligan. We go so deep into this that we even bring the first forcible entry tool to the class, which is the claw tool. That's how deep we get into the program. And honestly, it really starts in the classroom. We start this program with a 1.5-hour lecture about the Halligan bar. I'm a firm believer you can't start to go anywhere without knowing where you've been. So we started off with talking about the history of the Halligan, the tools that were designed before the Halligan itself, the modifications that people make to the Halligans, and then all the different kinds of Halligans that exist. And then we put people on the training ground, and we literally put Halligans in their hands, and they're playing with every Halligan that we can find. For the class, we don't bring out a flathead axe. We don't bring out any striking tools. We make them use Halligans. And one of the cool things about the class is that the tools are always comparable in weight, right? Depending on the manufacturer, some Halligans weigh a little bit more than others, but they're somewhat in the ballpark. And you have one Halligan bar driving another Halligan bar in. I make the comment all the time, and people have heard me say it. Listen, man, it's all about the mechanics. It's all about fundamentals, mechanical advantage, and levers. If you understand how mechanical advantage works, if you understand how levers work, once you got that concept down, it doesn't matter what Halligan bar you have. You have the understanding of mechanics, and you have the understanding of levers. You can give me a claw hammer, and with those same mechanics and those same understanding of levers, I can force a door. Now, would it be the easiest way? Probably not, but I still have the fundamentals down. And these students were able to do that with these Halligans. Obviously, some are better than others, right? Some of the characteristics, having forks that are a little thicker than some forks that are thinner, having adds that are wider and some that are not so wide, or your standard adds. We were actually honored that we got to play with a newer version of a Halligan hitting the market made by a company called Jersey Tactical, which actually the head of it has two adds. So it has an add on one side and an add on the other side, but the other adds is a little thinner. So again, I think it's also cool that students get a chance to play with brand new tools hitting the market to see for themselves what works. So it was a really, really cool class. A lot of positive feedback. I actually got a message today from one of our students after learning about the history of the Halligan, went back to his department and found out that they are actually using today an in-service Halligan bar that is worth a lot of money. So again, it was pretty cool to hear that from him today, but they would have never knew that Halligan bar and its value if they didn't take the class. So
and it was, I'm assuming, an original Hugh Halligan bar.
Yeah.
It kills me when we do these class. You and I, we're always looking for the Hugh Halligan bar. I had one a long time ago and didn't recognize, and of course lost it. But it's funny that when we give this class, you'll always get. We teach 10 classes. Out of the 10 classes, 2 students will come and say, "Hey, we actually have one that was on our rig," and say, "Bro, you need to take that out of service, clean it up, put it in a shadow box."
We have to date. We have had 2 students actually identify that they have valuable Halligans that are the original series Halligans on their frontline apparatus in their department. Today, we've had 2 students.
No.
Today being the second.
I'm hoping that they recognize that and said, "Dear Chief, we need to take this off right now."
I told him you need to go buy your department a Halligan bar, and you give them that Halligan bar
for a trade, even trade.
Yeah, even trade.
We can give them a 3-piece Halligan bar if they need one. But
it was a good program, really good. Really good.
It is, and I think that that's kind of cool that once you start showing people what the history of the tools, where we were to where we are now, and they go back and they look at they actually go back and they look at their tools, which is flattering because we sparked an interest into them for them to actually go and say, "What do we have on our rig?" I mean, I know we got tools. What do we have on our rig? And they're doing that because they're finding these and they're hitting us back up. And the same thing with your class, Sam. The biggest takeaway that I get from the class is the radios. When I was a battalion chief and I'd come in the morning and you'd hear the radios chirping because the batteries are going dead because they left them on all night long. And it's like, well, what if we get banged out for a call right now? So it's the little things like that. And when was the last time we cleaned our radio? If you run a working fire and you come back and you've used your SCBA, you're going to clean that SCBA, face piece, regulator, wipe it down. Some places actually have like ginormous, I call them dishwashers for their apparatus where they can actually wash their breathing apparatus. But the radio, we don't do anything. We might wipe it off if it looks grungy, but we don't check to see, is the antenna on right? Is the battery good? Is it connected correctly? Did we, get in there with that isopropyl alcohol and clean those terminals? It's the things like that after, watching you deliver that class, it's like, the percentage of wattage that we lose out of that just because of a dirty radio is crazy.
Yeah, no, you know how we prevent a little trick here, how we prevent dirt from getting in between the receiver and the boot for the handy talkie cord for your remote, your RSM. We marry them to the radio. So, it used to be if you had a problem with your radio, you unscrewed the mic, you gave him the radio, you got a radio back, and or vice versa. You had a problem with the mic, you unscrewed it and sent it. Now it's like your SCBA. If there's a problem with the framing in your harness, the regulator still goes with it. We do the same thing with the radio, and that eliminates anybody having to take on or off the RSM boot. And because when you do that, you're opening up to getting foreign stuff in there that's on the outside of the radio. If the radio is dirty, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, it's important. And, I found a trend, you talk about like you find trends in your battalion, your station or department or whatever. Yeah. But, one of the trends I found is missing, people missing their antennas. And I'm like, okay, we've got to re-educate folks about making sure your antenna is fully seated when you thread it in. They're threaded antennas on.
That is crazy to me, man. I'm always so paranoid that I touch it all the time just to make sure it's tight.
Yeah, man, me too.
Because I'm so paranoid of that
Grab
thing.
Give it a little twist just to make sure that it's tight.
Yeah.
I find myself fiddling with the knobs all the time to make sure it's where it needs to be. Same thing with the volume. Like you're always jerking with the volume. Like it's you really want that thing. It's almost like tuning a Halligan. You really want that radio tuned so you can actually hear what's going on and hopefully get some transmissions out of it.
Here's another one I'll do. I will, if I don't hear anything on the radio for a little bit, I will turn the channel selector. I'll turn it to like a channel or two just to make sure I hear the channels and then go back to the main channel just to make sure that I've been on the right channel the whole time. Like just little things like that.
That's embarrassing when they finally find you, say, we've been calling you for the last few minutes, or they'll call you on your cell phone. But no, I'm with you, man. And that's a good paranoia to have. Make sure that you're aware of your radio, its capabilities, and that it's right for you. I mean, what do we preach with when we give medicines as EMTs or medics? The right route, right dose, right date, all that stuff. But for the radios, like you've said 1,000 times, Sam, it's the one tool that we use the most that we know the least about. I was floored when we started talking about the emergency button, the orange EB button, and I asked people what it does, and they didn't know. And it's criminal that if they didn't know because there was no training or they didn't pay attention to the training. In my volunteer department, they gave us brand new radios, zero training. And I asked, what does this do? What does that do? Nobody knew. To this day, we still haven't had training. I mean, we went and figured it out ourselves, but that's ridiculous because if you fall through the floor or you get in a jam, that's all you got to let somebody know you need help. So radio is important. Yeah. It's the number one piece of equipment that we touch and use every day, the most, and then we know the least about. But, I'm not trying to get you fired up, Sam, because I know you'll go on and on about, with the radios and the comm stuff. But, I'm telling you, people that are watching this, please, make sure that your equipment's good to go and make sure that radio is good to go. And to add on to talking about that honing Halligans, if you have questions about Halligan bars and the class and anything like that, in the comments on this, drop the comment down at the bottom. I religiously go back and check our fire engineering YouTube page to make sure that if there's any comments, I answer them right away or get them the answer they need. So drop a comment if you got a question. So I want to pivot a little bit. Let's talk a little bit.
Can I add something to that real quick?
Go ahead.
So I think because of Sam, we have started to include more radio stuff into what we do. And I would put that out there to people to try to incorporate more radio stuff into your programs. We have now, if you look at it, between Sam's program, your program, using the portable radios in the classrooms, even giving on-scene reports using the portable radios in the classrooms. We've even transitioned it to the fire ground, where like our RIP programs, our movements with Mayday program, incorporating the radios into that program because, it's all muscle memory, right? So even if you're on the fire ground, if you know to, practice escaping out of a structure or getting tangled in wires to call a Mayday, a lot of the problems that we see in the fire service is the simulation of it, but not actually the mental part of you reaching for it, pulling up your radio mic. So we've actually started including the radio in more of our programs, even on the hands-on training ground. Our RIP programs, calling a Mayday before you actually move and actually act. And I would encourage people to make the radios be a part of your fire ground training as well, not just your command level stuff where you're tracking units and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and to add on what Sam talked about a little bit ago, when we're doing these trainings, with you're doing radio trainings and media trainings, to incorporate your ECC folks, your communication folks, because they're the ones that are going to be on the other end. And if I'm having an issue, the first time, I don't want this to be the first time that these guys have ever tried to mitigate a Mayday. That they never had the training for it. Now they're going fresh. The first time ever of taking care of somebody that's having a Mayday. So we incorporate our ECC folks into this training. And the other thing that we're trying to get out there is we don't want it to be taboo to touch that emergency button. Figure out whether you can go to an alternate channel, talk to your communication, say, hey, we're going to practice hitting the emergency button, giving a Mayday, and then we'll clear the emergency button. But we want people to understand, what does it feel like to touch the Mayday button that's on the radio versus what does it feel like on the lapel mic? And then what do you say when it happens? And what does it do for you when you do push that button, whether you get ruthless preemption or you get that open air for a minute or whatever, the radio is yours. So harping on radios, and I will, because it is important. Sam opened our eyes to this, is that incorporate your ECC folks into your training. Don't make it taboo if you touch that emergency button. We don't want it to be a thing like, well, I don't want to push it because I don't want to look foolish, and don't be afraid to call for the Mayday. And we've been preaching that. I'd rather you be foolish and we can mess with you at the kitchen table than have to carry you with 6 of us to your final resting place. Not to sound too dramatic, but it's the same thing. Don't be afraid to utilize and learn about those radios. The one class that we get a lot of hits for, RJ, the down and dirty urban forcible entry. I like when we start that day off at the so ground level at the basics, to where it's almost we try to tell people, hey, don't be insulted, with where we're starting this, but we're going to build you up to be very complex towards the end. And we do a good job of going around. RJ makes sure everybody introduces themselves, how much time they got in the fire service, career, volunteer. And then we just kind of see a mixture of how many people have from 1 year to 30 years on the job or as a volunteer. But once we start moving into the different stations that we have, where we talk about inward and outward swinging doors, utilizing wedges, utilizing your axe as a purchase keeper, into enhanced forcible entry. We're talking about lag bolts and rebars, to the point where we do our, all hell breaks loose at the end of the day, where we run our scenarios. The one scenario that really stuck out in my mind this time around was we actually allowed, we did zero visibility forcible entry, but we actually did it under real smoke conditions. We normally don't do that. And what an eye opener I hope it was for a lot of those guys, because they struggled to see what it was like to force entry. So go into that a little bit, RJ, about that portion of the class, and then some tips that we can give the people out there when they find themselves in this situation.
Yeah, so I got to honestly say that's actually started in Providence when we were up north at the Providence Safety and Survival conference, where they had the bulkhead, and we put the prop down at the bottom of the basement stairs. And so they had to force that door like a regular residential basement. They had to go down the stairs and force that door. And we were just using the residual heat and smoke off of the other guys who were doing engine company ops, live fire training. We were just taking that residual heat and smoke off of what they had on that floor. And that sparked the interest to, hey, man, like the zero visibility thing is real, right? You get into an apartment hallway and you have heavy smoke in a hallway. First of all, trying to track down the actual fire apartment, and then trying to find the door to force, and then trying to find your tools in position. And so we started doing that a little bit more. We did it in Michigan, a live fire there, and then we did it recently here up in Butler County, PA. I think, excuse me, I think one of the biggest things that the students like when we do these classes is to see it all tied together. So when we are doing the forcible entry tactics, we're showing them how to force the inward swinging door. We're showing them how to force the outward swinging door. We're showing them how to progress capture. We're showing them the proper way to strike the tools. We're showing them the proper way to find it, locate it, and then actually just sound it before you actually deliver the actual blow with the striking tool to the Halligan. And I think that sometimes people don't realize the value of what we're teaching while we're doing it in the basic level portion of the class where we're just focusing on the skills until we put them in the environment. And when we put them in that environment, I mean, we all spent some time in that camp this weekend with the students, taking turns with them. You can't see anything. And you have to track down the tools. You know, one of the things I preach to people all the time, and if I say this and offend somebody, I apologize in advance, but it drives me nuts to see people paint Halligans. And when you paint a Halligan and you get in one of those environments, it's hard to track it down. You know, the good thing about the Halligans and the metal look to them is they're shiny. So, you know, when you have lights, flashlights in these particular spaces and the lights bouncing off of the metal, you can at least get an idea of where the bar is. A lot of these students, they had a hard time alone, even without the Halligans being painted. A lot of the students had a hard time trying to find the Halligan. The last thing we want to do is swing an axe or a sledge or something like that and put it in somebody's rib cage, right? So, like, you know, the biggest thing is being able to sound the Halligan and know where it is before you deliver the blow. It is not far-fetched for us to be able to force a door and limit it to zero viz. It is just not something that happens every day. But the reality is it's not far-fetched. And I think that when the students see that, it kind of hits home for them because now they really got to work with each other. One of the biggest things that we do in our classes, especially some of these classes, is we try as much as possible to keep the groups and the groups that they traveled with. So if you get 4 or 5 guys or girls that traveled from XYZ location, we try to keep them together and navigate the skill stations that way because they can practice with each other, and then they can practice with each other under supervision of us to make sure that they're okay. You know, a lot of these people that we get in these classes, they have never been in a position to work in tight quarters with each other. You know, really, really tight spaces, or one guy or girl over another guy or girl, and then one guy or girl under another guy or girl. So, like, you know, having to like literally slouch down and get the Halligan bar up above your head and have the Halligan drive over you, you know, little things like that. They don't get that until they get into one of our trainings. But the cool thing is that they get to train together and they get to train with the groups that they're going to work with. So it's one of those things, you know, that, you know, they actually get to be put in those environments. Obviously, you know, we do spice it up for them a little bit under the watchful eye of us to make sure that they're all safe and everything like that. But yeah, definitely has been one of those programs that's really taken off, especially that part of the skill set that we incorporate.
What are some of the challenges you saw, Sam? I know you were working over there with Scott. You were doing inward or outward swinging doors. What were some of the challenges you saw in the beginning of the day, and then how did it play out towards the end when we went into our live scenarios?
We talked about, you know, guys progressing into, like, you know, have your plan A, your plan B. Usually if it's one person forcible entry, your plan A is you're leading off with the ads. You know, your plan B might be trying to use the ads and the pick to get in. You know, expanding your mechanical advantage, getting some triangulation in or whatever. But just talking, you know, that was the big thing. You know, hey, listen, you know, you might be always successful with ads. Flip it around with the 2-person, get some extra reps in with that. You know, if that's the case, we basically, you know, we had them rotate through what those 4 skill stations in the morning hours, inward opening. You could see as they went around, certainly for inward opening and outward swinging, like it's, and like anything else, your first class in the morning, you kind of knock the dust off a little bit. And by the time things got going, you saw them, and then obviously into the afternoon, seeing them progress. We had them mask up, force the door, control the door, mask up. That was the morning. In the afternoon, they actually masked up, went on air, proceeded in, and forced. So they got some preparatory skill time masking up in the morning, and that was kind of cool. So yeah, that was it in a nutshell for us, basically.
It was interesting to see. You made mention of the plan A and plan B. And I watched, when I went in with my group and I watched them, and they were just honed in on they were bound and determined to open this door with the ads. And after about the sixth time it had failed, I'm like, guys, we got to get this door open. This isn't working. This is literally the definition of insanity. What else have you learned? And they're like, oh, we can go to the forks. It was like a light bulb went off, even though it was dark in there. And they recognized right away, they turned it around. They got the forks buried in there, and they forced the door. And it's like you said, Sam, you got to have that plan B. And you need to know what plan B is coming off fire apparatus. You can't make it up on the fly. It's when you get the plan C and D is where you're kind of making it up on the fly. But getting that tunnel vision, trying to get away from that tunnel vision, sizing up the door. Now you're in a situation where you can't really see the door because you're in smoke conditions, but have an idea. It's an inward swinging door. What side is it going to be on? The biggest thing is what side's the doorknob on is going to be the determination of which way the pick is, up or down, in order to make sure that you got the bevel against the door the correct way. Seeing that light bulb moment was pretty good. It at least let me know that, hey, we were teaching them the right things because they recognized it right away when they went in there. Hey, doorknob's here. This is the way the tools got to go in. And we go in and we force the door. So, building those skill levels up, starting at that low level, even though it seems elementary, fire one type skill thing, and we build them all the way up to advanced forcible entry to where if they can get through this door under the conditions that we're giving them now, then the normal door is not going to present too much of an issue with them. They should be able to think. And I think, having that formalized training where you get in your vehicle or you get on a plane and you go fly out somewhere is good to hear other people that aren't in your department. What are they running into? I want to tuck in a little bit about in-station training, and I'll go with you, Sam. Going around, it's almost time for command comps in Montgomery County. You're getting into that time, so that's for you. That's your training, and that's a whole nother show. But what are some of the things that the guys are working on in the stations now? What's the, I don't want to say the new topic, but the topic that you guys are focusing on there in Montgomery County?
Certainly, long stretches, difficult stretches. Knowing, our big hit with after we had 8750 was, I think everybody went and revisited their unsprinklered multifamily dwellings. Hey, are we stretching? Are we using the right stairwell for this stretch? Where are the fire protection features? All that stuff. So there's definitely been a refocus on looking at our target hazards and stretching in those target hazards. And actually, when I get back in September, there's going to be some battalion training on a 2-in-1 that turns into a Mayday. So we'll actually use communications and our portable radios. I'll actually run through the command sequence. I'll attend to all of them. I'll get there, establish command. They'll be operating. Somebody will become a Mayday, and then they'll operate in that 2-in-1 setting to remove that package, that down firefighter. So that's really it. I've got some new folks. We've had some promotions, some transfers, that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to some new folks in the mix, getting them on the same page with our battalion, and yeah, man. So that's been it lately for sure.
And I know, RJ, we're getting ready to ramp up in Frederick because we're getting ready to release a whole parcel of recruits. 2 recruit classes are getting ready to hit the field, so it's going to be back to square one. Yeah, tomorrow. So it's going to be back to square one, starting with the basics. And a lot of people get a little pissy that I got a new guy coming to the station. We got to do this, got to do that. But I look at that as an opportunity. And I want to hear it from you, RJ, being a station officer. It's an opportunity to start at the basics and, this is a new person coming in. This is our opportunity to make them into a firefighter, right? We got a year to make them into a firefighter. So what are some of the things that you're keying in? I know they come with a probationary packet, but you did your program the other day where you sat down and say, here's all the stuff you learned in the training academy. Now I'm going to tell you what you're going to learn in the field, how it's going to be in the field. So what are some of the things that you're bringing to these guys and gals when they come to your station?
Yeah, so I think one of the hardest things in our department, and full transparency, even myself included, it's not the training, it's the same training. And the unfortunate part is, it's really hard to do anything different other than the probationary performance objectives, because right when a class comes out, you have to spend all your time.
So, Sam, when he gets back on, we'll pick up where he left off. But where do you see with your new recruits coming out? Because when's your next recruit class coming out?
I just got two new. I just got two rookies in my battalion, and there's a class that's in week maybe like 10 or something like that out of 26. So. And then we've been overlapping classes by 2 weeks. So it's, or maybe it's actually a little more than 2 weeks, but, I think like everybody else in our region, we can't hire them fast enough. People retiring, departments growing, that kind of thing. And,
right.
Everybody's hiring. So,
yeah. So finish your thought, RJ, where you were talking about, making,
I got
training.
kicked off again, but, so like, they usually have 6 sessions. The beginning session is like the basic stuff, getting to the station, answering the phone, that kind of stuff. And then it's ambulance inventory operations. Then it's engine company operations. Then it's truck company operations. Then it's rescue squad operations. So they have all of these sessions they have to get through. And each session has pages of performance objectives that they have to do. So the cool thing in the field is that we always have a drill to do. The bad thing about the drills is once you get that rookie done all the way to session 6, every tour you're spending the tour doing performance objectives for that person's rookie book. Right when they get to the end, you have a little bit of time to do some out of the box stuff that's not required for the rookie book, but then you get another rookie again. So now you're back to the same thing again. So that's the hardest part about having a department that constantly is turning over new people every 6 months, every 12 months. Some of these houses that don't have rookies, the special operations house, those kind of places, that's where you can do a little bit of that thinking. But for the most part, everybody has to, stick to the rookie books to help these guys and girls get through it. We do a program, which is cool. Our department has allowed us to come in and talk to the recruits before they get to the field about things that they need to know before they get to the field. I was the spearhead for that program. And the backstory was some years ago, a lot of the recruits that went to the field, a lot of the people in the field, they didn't have positive things to say about the rookies, the recruits. And I took great offense to that because I spent a lot of time teaching at the academy, and I felt like, we do a really good job, but we only have so much time with them. We can't make them firemen in 6 months. The best thing we can do is teach them the basics. And it's up to the people in the field to make them firemen. But I felt great. I took great offense to that. So I decided to send an email to the entire department and said, I'm going to put together a program to give them information before they get to the street. You send me the information. I will make a slide with your name and put your picture to it so they know who to look for in the field. And I will read the slide off with the information that you want me to give it to them. And I'm going to read it as it is. You give it to me as it is. I'm going to make the slide as is. And I put the information out as is. I would probably say we've been doing this for the last 7 to 8 years now. We've been going in and reading the slides to the recruits as the people in the field want them to know what's going on and what to do. Funny, we laugh about it now. But, we had a rookie, nobody told the rookie for his entire 6-month time there that we sleep on a job. So, this guy, he was in the field. He didn't know. He didn't had any previous experience. He didn't know that, we sleep on the job. So, it was funny because I'd come into work every time and I see this kid and he looks like a zombie every morning and he thought he had to stay up, and I realized we failed because we never talked about that. All of our time in the academy, we're talking about the tactics and how to do these particular skills, but we don't ever have a time to just break away and just talk about, chill stuff, things you need to know once you get out. So, that program was designed to literally much just dial it down, chill out. Let's just have a conversation about these things. And also, this is what can make your career be valuable to yourself and the department if you do these things. So that's pretty much the program. That's how it is in the field as it relates to training, and that's pretty much the program that we have before we send them to the field as we wrap up the training at the academy level.
That's valuable stuff, because Tim Brown, he was a captain in Montgomery County. He and I got a chance to get like an hour to an hour and a half with the recruits, and we did something similar. It was basically like 20 to 25 different bullet points of things to experience or expect when you get out in the field, about, cleaning the bathrooms and mopping the floors and, listen twice as much as you talk, all those things. And then what firehouse life was like and what it's like to sit around the kitchen table and, what's your role as the new guy, as opposed to all the things that we learn in the training academy, how to pull lines and bleeding and bandaging and all that stuff. That program is huge. And we were doing it for a long time, and I'm glad you guys have been doing it for a long time. Obviously, I don't have my hands with the recruits, but to be able to give them a glimpse of what's going to happen or what to expect in the station and what's expected of you when they get out there is huge, because the fire service is a different life. It's not like going to an office and sitting in your cubicle. It's a different life. So what can you do? And I'll kick this to the two of you guys. It's the same training. They get the rookie book, they come in, they got to do the same training. They have to lay out the same way, pull lines the same way, because that's the way they're going to be tested. How do we spice that up by giving them the basics, but spice the training up to keep the senior members engaged, because we want them to train as well. Training is training and it's valuable, but what can we do to spice it up a little bit, but still showing them the correct way, the way to do things so they can ace their test? I'll go with you first there, RJ.
It's tough, man. I don't know if I have the right answer to it. And I've seen it go many different ways, right? I would say that you got to be really careful doing that because when some people learn by seeing, I know I'm that kind of guy, right? I'm the type of guy who learns by seeing. And so, we have a very strict regimen in our department. They have to learn the basic skills. And when they're tested out to the basic skills. If it's done any other way, it's dicey. It gets really dicey. And then the last thing you want to do is have a rookie fail or a rookie test out or a probationary test out because they weren't doing the basic skills.
What about you, Sam? What are some of the things that you guys are doing to kind of spice up the training a little bit? I know as a battalion chief, you're expecting the rookie books to be completed, making sure that they're getting the information. But what kind of stuff are you seeing your guys doing to spice up the training a little bit, to at least make it a little more interesting so it's not the mundane same thing all the time?
Yeah, no, I mean, I got two things. One, when I was at the academy, we had, was it strategy and tactics? We had a class in there that, yeah, it's a relevant class, but it's not needed until promotion. And I was like, I think we can use that week of time that I think we ended up with 2 weeks somehow. We can use that time differently. And what we did was that we kept that time at the end of the program and used it for enhanced operations. So we actually took and did scenario-based stuff with engine, truck, and rescue squad. and they've kept that part of the program running. So I think they get a little more than they used to get, and they get it from instructors that are certainly out there in the field on the regular. So they're getting, I think, really good, legitimate training from legitimate people. And then when we get them in the field, it's all about learning the culture of that battalion. Okay, listen, for this building, we use the 500-foot line. We piece together a 500-foot line to get to the top floor. It's all about, because of the department, we're all hazards, and there's so much expected of us. It's about maximizing your drill time on things unique to the area they're running in. Hey, maybe that person ends up, I want to be a battalion 4 person my entire career. I love it here. But it's literally getting out and taking those basics and, okay, now we're here. Here's a garden apartment building. We're going to actually do some of the stuff that you did in the academy. But we're going to do it here. You'll see where we lay out from. You'll see where the ladders are thrown for these apartment buildings. You'll see where the lines are stretched, and you'll see what your job is as the new firefighter. We'll show you that too. So that's how we're doing it.
And finish up what you were saying, RJ, that, even though it's, you got to try to keep it fresh as best you can.
Yeah. And we try to, spice it up by, the days that the rookies are off, their Cali days, those things. We try to use those days as personal days for us to work on something as the senior guys, maybe something a little out of the box, that will help us, keep sharp with the not so normal calls that we get on the regular. The good thing about being in special operations, we get to practice those on a regular because we don't get rookies assigned there on a regular. So, those types of the things, those are the ways we do that. But you do got to be careful with that, because when you do have them there, if people are the types of people that they learn by seeing, and they're seeing you do things, they may take that back to their test style or go back to the academy, and they might do it that way, which is not the way they were taught. And then you put them in a jam, you know what I mean? So you just got to be careful. It happens. We see the trends of people and how they learn and what they do when they go back. So
I've got a good example of that, a recent one. So 2 classes ago, one of our rookies went up to test, squared away kid, had a problem with the hose line evolution, because for test day, we operate 4-person staffing. There's always a backup, right? So while that person was on probation, we're drilling out in the streets with them. We're doing exactly what we do with 4-person staffing, which is they're not pulling that skid load off the backup guys. So they go to the academy, and he doesn't freeze. He ends up getting through it, but they were like, "That's real sloppy. Like, what have you guys been doing with him?" Well, we've been doing it the way we do it in the real world with 4 people. He has a backup person. That person's almost 99.9% of the time, that person's going to be there,
Yeah.
And we can have drills for when we're down staffed, but that's not our reality. Our reality is that. So
that's a really good example. Yeah.
And we caught it. I caught it with one of my people in our battalion, and I credit one of my float lieutenants for catching it. And I was like, yo, because she had to go up with him. And she called me. She's like, "This is not right." And we got, there was a good line of communication, and they fixed it. So they gave him credit. And it's like, yeah, this is something we need to work on. Whether it's getting a backup person, a ghost backup person for them on test day, or, reiterating, hey, they're pulling their own line on test day, whatever they decide to fix it with. But we haven't had that issue since. So
good. Problem solved. So I want to talk about the last thing we're going to talk about before we sign off. The most important thing about rookies that come into the firehouse, coming off probation, is the rookie dinner. So the most important thing. And it's funny. I'll tell you a little story. This is literally a couple of weeks ago. I'm at my volunteer house. We've got career guys now. Carroll County's just took over all the career people, so they've hired a bunch of career people. And I'm sitting at the table with the career guys, and one of the medics, the medic firefighters, says, "Yeah, I got one more week, and I'm finally coming on probation. They're going to sign me on probation." I was like, "Oh, cool. So what are you going to make your shift for dinner?" And he's like looking at me like I'm stupid. I mean, I am, but he's looking at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, "Dude, you got to make a rookie dinner thanking the shift for working with you. And if somebody had to take a detail, even though they didn't, working with you, pulling hose lines, making sure you knew all the things that you needed to know to get you to the point where you are a permanent employee and you continue to get a paycheck until you retire. It's a thank you type of dinner. He had no idea what I was talking about. So I laid it all out. I said, here's what we used to do in Montgomery County. I'd tell the rookies, I was like, look, when you come off probation, you are expected to make a rookie dinner that you will cook with your two hands. Okay. You're not going to order something. You can bring your wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, family members into whatever to help you cook, but you will cook it. And the two criteria are it will be good and it will be expensive, and you will pay for it all. And you're going to come in, if you have a Kelly day, you're coming in on your Kelly day. So the guy that's been detailed out for the last year is going to be able to enjoy that dinner too. And fast forward a week later, I'm at the firehouse. We just ran a call, come back to the firehouse. He's in there trimming up steaks, and he's got roasted potatoes, just a whole, and he's cooking the whole dinner. And there's only 4 or 6 career guys there. So he had 6 big steaks that are nicely trimmed. And of course they were running medic calls and all that stuff, but he made a good rookie dinner for them guys. So I know what it's like in Montgomery County, but obviously I don't have the hands-on with the recruits that are coming out in Frederick. Are they making a good rookie dinner, RJ?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a long-standing tradition. I did it when I came out. It's been going on before that. The thing of it is, for me, being a detail boss, when I float around, I don't catch any of them because I'm always at a different spot when somebody's doing it. So, but it is a thing in Frederick. And I honestly got to say, our department's becoming very, very cultured. So now you're trying different foods from different ethnicities, and man, they are good. A lot of stuff I never would have even had or thought to have until I, met somebody from a different culture on the job now. So now we're trying, people are making what they know. And honestly, I'd rather somebody cook something that they know how to do very well versus trying something they've never done before and it not be good.
Right. If you've never done it before, you better experiment a few times before you come to the firehouse. And the cool thing about being a battalion chief, Sam, is that they're going to get invited. Whoever's having that dinner, you're getting invited to the thing, right?
It's been great. I don't know, 4 or 5 in a row. It was like steak or some kind of meat or whatever.
Never crabs, though.
The last one was shrimp, man. And I didn't say anything because it was a smaller shift. And I know he had gone out of his way to get the shrimp, and they're like, "You're good with shrimp, right, boss?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And when it came down to it, I ended up having like rice and tortillas or something. So I still ate it. They still fed me, but I wasn't going to get in the way of.
Sam's an ocean boy, but he's allergic to shellfish. So that's the huge inside joke. But
I told him, I said, "Listen, I've been navigating.
Sam.
I've been navigating being allergic to shellfish for 50 years, and I'm not going to have a shift that wants to have shellfish, even if I'm a guest and that's all they're serving. I'm still going to come break bread with them. There's something there for me to eat. Trust, as you very well know, there's always something.
Bet you married a woman that would eat crabs every day if you'd let her.
That's the punishment I get, man.
It's all good. Well, fellas, we're at the 1 hour mark, and again, I mean, what more can you ask for to be able to sit on here with your boys and just talk fire shit? And minus a couple of technical glitches, we had a good show.
Breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Over time, those toxins lead to cancer. Protect yourself with MagnaGrip, the easiest, most reliable exhaust removal system that features a true 100% seal to eliminate diesel exhaust fumes. To get free grant assistance, visit magnagrip.com.